people in the real estate game invest in not only jewelry but watches.
It's an investment. People talk about it constantly. People use that as an investment strategy in some ways.
It's a symbol of status. People that are financially savvy, they look at watches as, hey, this is a good investment. I'm probably never going to sell it, but I know if everything goes wrong and my portfolio goes to zero, I still have something worth value on my wrist.
Common challenge with most real estate owners, and that's liquidity.
The $100 million question, right?
Welcome everybody to episode 18 of Blueprint for Closers. I'm Rob Nixon. This is my co-host Dominic Ciccarelli. We are joined by the owners of Gerald Peters, Gerald and Peter Amorosi. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So you guys are the owners of Gerald Peters along with your father. What is Gerald Peters? Tell us a little bit about it, who you guys are, what you do.
I guess my father started the business in 1982, so we celebrated over 40 years just 2 years ago. Me and my brother came on board after college, full time. And I let Pete talk about how he did. I know when I came out of college, I was looking to go into accounting. I was, applying for schools to go for my CPA. Didn't want to work for my father. I actually worked in the city for a short amount of time for a specific project. When I came back home, you kind of grow up a little bit in a different mindset. I saw the potential we had to grow as not just a business, but the jewelry industry as well. I love the fact that with the jewelry business, there was no cap on how much you can make. There was no, there's no limit. Like let's just say you own a restaurant, you're packed out, you have to either expand the restaurant or open another one. With jewelry, we were able to, the sky's the limit. And I think that's what drives me every day. And it's been very exciting since.
Yeah, I had a similar experience when I was in college. I went to college for business management with a concentration in entrepreneurship, which is a mouthful. But basically what that means is I wanted to own my own business when I got out of college. But that being said, I didn't want to work for my father. I didn't want to ride on his coattails. I wanted to do my own thing. So when I got out of college, my father said, hey, listen, I want to open up a jewelry store, a Pandora store out in Toms River, New Jersey. We're not near there. I have to worry about my Staten Island stores. Do you want to go down there and run the business? You could hire, you could do the inventory management, you could do the accounting, you could do the bookkeeping, everything. So when he gave me the opportunity, I said, basically, okay, I'm out of college. I have no capital to start my own business, but I'm going to have my own business essentially, right? I'm going to be pretty much on my own. So it was an awesome learning experience. And then that's kind of how I started working for my father without working for him, because he was there maybe once a week. So I was able to operate myself. And then from there, story goes on, how I, went from the Pandora store to our fine jewelry store, which I'm sure we'll talk about today.
So there was a chip thing, or you guys just didn't like the jewelry business?
I think it was more
a mix
of
of both.
Chip on your shoulder kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
of course, naturally.
When we were younger, we were probably 15, 16. Your father's dragging you to work. You wanted to go play baseball, football. It's a different mindset. I think once we both grew up, we realized, especially when we started working together, what the two of us can do and accomplish together was, unforeseen. So we were, we grew up, like I said. And, my dad started in a flea market all by himself 40 years ago in Caesar's Baby Bazaar for any Brooklynites out there. He moved that store to a freestanding store on 18th Avenue. And then in 95, he had both stores. He opened in Staten Island Mall, which we still are located. And every day's a new step to the next process.
Yeah, a question I always had was, Rob and I don't come from families that maybe were self-employed or had a business. So growing up in that environment where your dad's like self-employed and small business owner, did he bring, his job home? Like how much influence did, when you guys were growing up, like did you hear all day long about gold and jewelry, or he kind of left it at the store and came home and was like a dad?
I mean, as you guys, you own your own businesses, right? You're getting phone calls at night. You're dealing with problems, issues all day, whether you're at work or not. So by default, you're bringing it home, right? But it wasn't like he would complain to us about it. He was excited to be with us. He was coach of our baseball teams. He helped out. But there was times where we're in the middle of a baseball game and he had to leave, or he got a phone call that he had to take. So by default, especially when you're running a small business and you're growing, you're not scaling your business to the point where everything's automation and you're not there anymore. You're really, every single sale, especially for him at the time, was important. And if he lost a sale because he wasn't there, it was detrimental to his business. So I feel like he did bring it home, and we saw how hard he worked. Which, at least for me, I don't want to speak for Gerald, but that's the reason why I wanted to get into business, because he got to control his hours. He got to, even though he worked more, he was still in control of when and where he had to be and how he did certain things. So So yeah, I mean, as any business owner, it's your life.
A lot of people feel like they have that 9 to 5 gig working for somebody, that they have job stability, and we all know as business owners that's the furthest thing from the truth. It's this false reality that you could be fired and lose your job just as easily as we can go out of business tomorrow. The mentality, though, is the psychology behind it is super interesting. So was there ever a point growing up where you're like, I'm never dealing with jewelry? Like, you had jewelry coming out of the ears, like just hearing about the business?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think he inundated us with jewelry talk or watch talk. Even when I started the business, I didn't know much about it. So I think to his benefit, he kind of let us make our own decision. I remember when I was working for him out of college and I left and then I came back, it was never like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? It was always like, you're going to have to make your own decisions, learn for yourself.
Right.
And that's the right decision, I guess, especially as a 22-year-old kid, you got to make mistakes, let's say, or, maybe just learn on your own because,
absolutely.
Dad can't tell you to do everything.
No, it's great.
I think his approach in that aspect, he was just so happy when we came on board, but he never pushed it. And I think that was a major success for all of us. And we worked together very well. And we've grown too, because in the beginning you're fighting, but once we all realize all our best interests are in the best for the business, now we have healthy conversations, debate, bring ideas to the table that maybe we didn't think of. And I think that's a huge benefit.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And the big part of that usually is roles, right? So like you guys play very specific roles, or there's a lot of cross. I mean, you being an entrepreneur, there's always that crossover. I mean, or do you guys typically, you handle one side, you handle another?
So we try to define roles. I mean, in your businesses, everyone's crossing over, especially in a small business. There's times where
in some way, shape, or form, yeah.
Correct. But in general, if you were to put caps on us, Gerald would be sales, I would be operations. But I obviously sell, and Gerald also deals with parts of the operations as well. So I would say that's where our passion lies. Gerald's more passionate about sales, where I'm more passionate about operations. I'm a more analytical person. Gerald's a more emotional person. So it works. Sales, when you're in sales, you got to be more emotional. But at the end of the day, there is a lot of overflow. So there's a lot of ideas I have for sales. There's a lot of ideas that Gerald has for operations, and those ideas are constantly being passed back between one another. So
let's define this too for anyone who's not listening, because the business is involved and it's super exciting. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about. So at the time, it's Gerald Peter Gold Mine, right? There was a name. Right. So at some point, the name changed. You got in the business. And then at this point, you're selling what? When did you get into all the different brands and where you guys are selling today?
So to start in Caesars Bay, my father started with a single case of children's charms with birthstones. And then obviously evolved to chains and bracelets and the jewelry. I remember he took on Movado, and that was like the biggest thing in the world in the 80s. And that was his, claim to fame. And Tag Heuer came along, and we grew to, in 2015, to our new location, which we're currently at now. We added a brand like Breitling. We added some nice designer lines like Roberto Coin and Hearts on Fire and Tacori. And then obviously the big one was in 2017. We opened Rolex, and that was just a major achievement, just not for me and my brother, but for my father, who started with nothing, to 40 years later, be able to say he's a Rolex jeweler, which is less than 1% of jewelers in the country.
Right.
It definitely, shows how well of a family, how hard he worked. But
and just to comment on that, when we opened up Rolex in 2017, we were the first new family in over 10 years in the Northeast to open up as a official Rolex jeweler. So that hasn't been another family. Like maybe if a family had one store and they open up to two, that doesn't count, but a new family. So this was new for the Northeast for Rolex. And, they basically said, like, we haven't done this before, our connection at Rolex in the Northeast in over 10 years. So when we heard that, and they finally gave us the yes, it was, how did these guys, my father, who started off in Caesars Bay Bazaar with just a single showcase, how did we get to that level that we're now the only family in the Northeast in the last 10 years to open up as a Rolex jeweler?
Which is a tremendous compliment, because to be clear, only authorized dealer in Staten Island. And I've seen a little bit behind the curtains. Rolex has one of the most stringent, tightest processes. So you guys are obviously doing everything by the books. You're running, doing things just perfect to even be considered, let alone be awarded that.
Yeah, I was going to say, so why did they choose to open up? Or
so when they came to us, that was the question. We basically studied the brand. We knew everything about Rolex before they came to us about 10 times before the CEO came down from Rolex USA. And he came to the store. He stood in the store, outside the store, for about 20 minutes just watching the operation. He finally came in. He interviewed me, my brother, my dad, some of the staff members. And when he asked us, I know what I can do for you. I know how many watches you're going to sell. He's like, what are you going to do for me? And I said, well, you're not on Staten Island, which we, kind of detailed the amount of money that the island has and how affluent the surrounding areas are. And you're not recognized. You're not, there's no way to purchase your watch. So someone has to either drive to Manhattan or they have to drive all the way out to Short Hills. And this was an opportunity for us to represent you in the best of our ability. And I told him, right to his face, I said, we're going to do better than anybody else. I said, I can promise you that. I said, I don't know how many watches we'll sell.
Right.
But I said, well, we'll represent Rolex and the brand with the utmost integrity. And I think that's what he wanted to hear.
That's great. So they actually approached you because they knew there was a spot they had to open. You just didn't know where to open.
Yeah. So they sought us out. We had tried to contact them in the past prior to opening up our new location, which we're at now. And once we opened up that new location, we built out a beautiful store in 2015. They felt it was the right fit. So they look for the right fit, and they're not going to try to put a round peg into a square hole. Mm-hmm. It has to be the perfect partner for them. It doesn't matter if there's no Rolex jeweler in 300 miles from there. Mm-hmm. It has to be the right person for them to be comfortable with us selling the brand. So for us, that was a huge accomplishment.
And this is 2017, right?
2017,
right,
that's correct.
Right before everything got crazy.
Right. So when was, was it COVID or when did watches were, we were just talking about this earlier, if you bought a watch, if you had a little bit of money, you want to buy a watch or something, someone would knock it, right? Or jewelry. That has changed. Now it's become it's an investment. People talk about it constantly. People use that as an investment strategy in some ways. Mm-hmm. That was probably COVID that I guess it got crazy, or where did you guys see it?
I think during COVID, with the downtime people had, more information was available to, everyone who was home. So while the stock market crashed, people were concerned about finances, jobs, everything. Rolex stood at its price and then started to slowly increase. Right. And I think when people saw that, they said, in plain English, what the hell? That's the safest investment right now.
Right.
And I think that spiraled because I think a lot of people who had disposable income who were maybe not into watches, like Dom himself right over here.
Yeah,
so
we're
going to get him into watches after this podcast. But no, my point is, if you had disposable income and you said, I can buy this $10,000 watch, wear it on my wrist, and it's really worth 15, it's really worth 20. Some of them are worth 35. And they can enjoy it. They can wear it. They can express their style. And another thing is, I think watches are a connector. You can put 5 guys in the same room that have nothing in common besides maybe the Rolex watch.
Yeah.
The conversation will go all night. The conversation will go all
culture.
Night. Similar to cars, let's say. I found that in sales. I'm talking to someone at a local restaurant that I would never talk to because he complimented my watch. And now I have a new connection in business. Well, now I have he does, this for his job. And I think the watch community attracts so many different types of people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just why it spiraled. And I think, me and you talk watches all the time, but, we can have a conversation with someone we probably have nothing in common with besides the watch. And I think it's an easy combo.
It's also, watches it's the only thing that you'll have in your possession that you could wear every day, and 10 years down the road, you can still have it. You might have a t-shirt, designer sneakers, a belt. Down the road, you're probably going to get rid of it. It's not something that you're looking at saying, I'm going to wear this every single day and pass this down to my kids, right? A watch that is worn by you that you pass down to your kids, or a watch that you receive from your father, your grandfather. There's so much involved in that watch that you actually get the chills talking about it, because that's the watch that someone I love wore for so many years. There's nothing.
Good point.
There's nothing else that you could have. It might be a piece of jewelry or something like that, but for men, watches is that one thing. And there's plenty of times where people change clothes, they change cars, they change houses, but the watch is always with them. So they could do something amazing. You could sign a deal with that watch on, or you could celebrate a milestone, and that's never going to leave with that watch. So
the other thing we learned also with selling of art was that, you could have the Empire State Building, but you're only selling the Empire State Building in New York City, right? Where a watch, you want to sell it, or if you want to buy it, it's a world market. You can literally buy and sell a watch anywhere in the world.
Yeah, if you fly to Europe, and like you said, actually the Rolex CEO said something, and it actually stuck with me. He said, the word Rolex is probably one of the only words in the entire world that if you're in any major city and you say it to anyone who doesn't know your language, they'll point you in the right direction.
Right.
And it's like, it's a world-renowned
By
brand.
far one of the most recognizable
Think
brands.
about how powerful that is. You know, you could say probably Coca-Cola, this and that, but when you say the word Rolex, they'll say the store's that way, you know, and they don't even know what else you're saying.
And I've been going
it's pretty
back,
remarkable.
So true. And I've been going back and forth with these guys for quite some time now because my son was born last year and there's a watch I specifically want because I know that at least to me in 18 years when he, you know, when I would want to give it to him, it's still going to be cool as hell and it's just going to have a great story.
Cool,
and
it'll be cooler.
It might be cooler then. It might be cooler
100%.
then. But like
100%.
it's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
Much more so than a piece of art
And that
per se.
we see a lot when, especially now with the position we're in, when fathers have a young boy or young, like they're buying a Rolex to symbolize that birth year, that birth date. And that's what in their mind, this is an investment, not just financially, but emotionally as well. And I think that's a tremendous, you know, powerful statement to say because there's not many things like Pete said that do that. So.
Tell me this phenomenon about every Rolex shop in the world having like no inventory right now.
So
I was in Portofino 3 weeks ago, and I walk into the Rolex store.
It's a good question.
There's 2 watches for sale. I took pictures. I sent it to you.
Exhibition? What is it?
No,
that's even
the
different.
Exhibition,
Yeah.
I'll actually comment that is the best thing Rolex did because it allows us to have conversations with the staff.
So
with the clients.
basically, let me just explain what an exhibition model is versus the watches that you said for sale. So an exhibition model is a model that's on in the display case that clients could come in and try on, but that aren't available for sale. And when people come in, they're like, "Hey, why do you have all these watches that you can't sell? Why are these exhibition models?" Well, I said, that would be like you going to a car dealership, not even be able to look at a car and buying a car based on a picture or based on an Instagram post. So this allows us to get the watch on your wrist, see what you like, see what you don't like, and then make your request based on that. But the real reason why Rolex isn't available is people think that Rolex is cutting back production or the supply is going down. It's not. Rolex is making more watches than ever. And the reason why there's nothing available is because demand is so high. And what Rolex told us once, which is so true, is that some of their main competitors, if Rolex made 5% more watches in 1 year, their competitors, that was the same amount of watches their competitor made in the entire year. So it's to make 5% more watches for Rolex is not that easy. Plus you have skilled craftsmen making watches, so watchmakers that you can't just hire someone off the street to make a watch. You got to go to school for 2 years. You have to be qualified, so not everyone gets through that schooling. So they have the cream of the crop, and then they also have development of new product. There's a lot that goes into making a watch. It's not like you just ramp up a new factory. Yeah. So, but do you want to speak about the demand and how that?
Yeah, I mean, I have an app on my phone right now. I can show you, firsthand how many requests we have for a specific model, and it's hundreds at some points. And we're not getting hundreds of a single watch. We'll hopefully get hundreds of the whole collection. So when you're talking about a small store on Staten Island, you can only imagine what other stores. And like I said, it's a global phenomenon. Watches everywhere, and for us, managing the client expectations, because anyone that walks in Gerald Peters that wants to spend $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 and they have to wait, it's not easy to say, we can't take your money today, but we'll let you know when we can. And it's more so of finding the perfect home for each watch. It's a huge undertaking, but we obviously want the watch to go to the right person that not only deserves it, but also has, been a great client to us or been a great, part of the family in some capacity, whether it be referrals or whether it be helping out or whether it be, purchasing jewelry in the past and engagement ring and wedding bands, and they want the watch for the wedding. We have to kind of piece the puzzle together. And that's a daily basis job. But like when you said, when you walk in, the reason no watches are available is because they've been allocated. When we finally get them in, we're not going to hold it. We have customer A been waiting 6 months for it. So it's like, let's get it on his wrist. It's no good in our safe.
So does Rolex USA basically say how many watches they're going to make that year?
They do.
Or they have a general idea how much they can make?
They tell us what we're getting. I don't know what other stores.
So Rolex is, this is the crazy thing about Rolex, is that they're a private company. So you can't look into their books and see how many watches they made. So anytime you see that, it's based on estimates, based on exports or whatever data people could get to try to put a number on it. But you'll never know the true actual number. So we only know what pertains to us. We can't say how many watches Rolex makes a year. Or,
But how do they figure out that number of how much allocated to you guys?
I think it's based on they have their algorithms and based on the percentage, what's our cap. They also want to probably diversify. If they talk about Manhattan compared to us, compared to somewhere else, maybe upstate, they don't really disclose that information.
Right.
What we were able to do, I know when we first opened, we had wool watches in the cases. We blew through their expectations. So I think that was in good graces with them. They said, wow, they're doing way more than we thought they would. And then all of a sudden the market went crazy, and you could have sold them out of the basement. But,
Right.
we were, they factor in a ton of different things. So they factor in your location. They factor in how well you do with secret shops and email reviews, how many Instagram followers you have, your connection with the local community and all that good stuff. So they grade you on all those things. And that's
Wow.
who they want the watches to go to, because they're a better representation of Rolex, let's say.
Right.
And if you do have all the tasks at hand at a better score, you get more watches, because those are the people they trust.
Yeah, because clearly there's a demand. I mean, you guys have a waiting list of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every other Rolex dealer has the
Everyone
same.
has the same problem.
Yeah.
Right. Which
It's a
brings me
great
to my next
problem.
question. It's why the third market
Correct.
sales or secondary market sales on Rolex is so much higher, because nobody wants to wait those 6 months for a possible phone call from you guys.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's supply and demand economics 101, right? If you can't get it, you can get it here at this price, and the
Right.
prices vary depending on how limited the watch is.
Right.
If more watches if it's more accessible, the price isn't as crazy. But some of the watches, like a Daytona, for instance, is triple the retail price. So it's
Unbelievable.
Is that-
It really is.
and that's instant.
Right.
I'm not even talking 5 years down the road. It could be
Yeah.
5 times, 8 times. Who knows? You know?
Right.
So it's an instant walk out of our store, and you have tripled your money.
Now, is that something that you guys have to think about, or you try not to think about it at all?
We monitor it to some extent, just because.
I mean, just the calls alone from strangers has got to be.
It's just more so to have that conversation with the client. We need to know what's going on too,
Yep.
because they know the price is better than us. They know today's price. I got to try and keep up just for a healthy convo. But for us, as long as the watch go on the right person's wrist, which 99.9% we feel we do the right job. We don't want to sell it to someone who's going to go and sell it for profit, because that watch could have went to someone like.
Yeah, and that's
that
right.
would enjoy the watch and
Yeah,
hand
of
it down,
course.
and that's the hardest part, is making sure we find the right home for it.
Well, I would say that that you get into a bunch of other laws with that, like maybe prejudice or people can make a bunch of claims if you turn someone down and then you sell the same watch to somebody else. So that's a
Right.
delicate
Yeah,
and slippery slope.
You'll see some people that try to do something like that to try to, they have an agenda to try to get what they want, and
Right.
they'll complain as far as they can. But luckily, we never had that issue. I mean, for us, we base it on what Gerald said, and the main word that we could use is loyalty to Gerald Peters. Those who are loyal to us will be loyal to them, right? So if someone's been shopping with us for 25 years and they want something, they're going to be the first ones. They've been loyal to us. So the best example I could give you, like for both of you, if you only had, you have. I'm sure you have tons of clients, tons of potential clients. But if you could only help 10 clients, who are you going to pick?
Yeah.
And it might not be based on, yeah, sure. I'm sure if you have clients that spend a great deal of money with you, but it might be someone that works with you every year. Or it might be someone that helped you out tremendously in your career that you want to give some back something, right? There's a lot of different factors you look at. So when we look at loyalty, it's not just about spend. It's not just about one factor. It's so many different factors that we look at.
Right. Like I don't own a watch, but I may refer a bunch of people to you that ends up buying watches.
Absolutely.
Right?
Which
And
means
that's
more.
It means more, because
Yeah.
I always say this all the time, is you can spend X, but if you have 10 referrals, those 10 referrals can spend X, and they send 10 people, and that's how you grow exponentially.
sure.
Yeah.
Referrals matter more than dollars spent, for sure, I would say.
A lot of our watchers, our viewers, are probably asking, why do we have you guys on here talking about jewelry and watches on a real estate focused podcast? But like art, a staggering amount of people in the real estate game invest in not only jewelry but watches, which is where I want to focus on today. So talk to me about those statistics. I mean, clearly a lot of wealthy people and successful people in life tend to buy real estate in their portfolio, because that's how you really develop generational wealth and things like that. So almost by default, even if you're the CEO of Home Depot, you probably own some real estate, so you consider a real estate professional. Talk to us about like your clients and people in the real estate world, and where you see like the relation.
Sure. So I feel like when someone becomes wealthy or they want to be wealthy, real estate's always a topic of conversation, right? When you're talking about watches, I feel like people that are financially savvy, they look at watches as, how can you go wrong with this, right? So you can put a watch on your wrist. It appreciates in value. Most watches do, especially now, especially with the higher end brands. They appreciate in value. You can't go wrong with it. Plus, it's on your wrist. It's a symbol of status, a symbol of that you have some wealth, that you've had success in your life. It's all positive things. And when people are financially savvy, and you can put something on your wrist, enjoy it every single day. You may never want to sell it, but at least that peace of mind is there that it is appreciating value.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our clients who have a lot of money don't buy it with the intent of reselling it. They buy it knowing, okay, this is a good investment. I'm probably never going to sell it, but I know if everything goes wrong and my portfolio goes to zero, I still have something worth of value on my wrist.
Right. And there's a common challenge with most real estate owners, and that's liquidity.
Right.
And I think the reality is, whether it be art, watches, these are liquid assets that clearly on the secondary market, you can go sell like so fast at all this extra money.
Absolutely.
So that's I think that's a big part of it that people think about, right?
Yeah, also,
100%.
To Dom's point before, people who are in the luxury watch game are usually pretty successful in some capacity, right? Especially if you're buying a $40,000 watch and maybe multiple throughout the year. And it's not uncommon for us to have clients that are in that, that market where they're purchasing, a platinum watch is 60, 70, 80,000.
Wow.
So those people who are in that part of their lives where the disposable income comes from, that they're able to do that, they're usually in some capacity, which we were talking earlier, in some kind of real estate investment, or with the rise of Airbnb, I've seen a lot of my customers have their hands in that.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've seen whether they enjoy the house themselves or they Airbnb it out when they're not there, but have multiple houses throughout the country or in a specific area. Majority of our customers are who love watches are also into construction and in that aspect of real estate. So and those people usually find themselves purchasing houses or, maybe condos or some kind of real estate investment that they can fix and then rent out themselves.
Yeah.
So we see it's a big correlation.
Yeah.
I think people who are savvy investing, it follows into watches as well.
Yeah,
so I think real estate and
you guys have been in business long enough, especially when it comes to multi-generational, with 45 years, right? I mean, you've seen the ups and downs in both the jewelry, gold,
Absolutely.
silver, watch kind of market, and at the end of the day, there's always a new level of value, right? It's always going up. You're gonna have your peaks and your valleys. Tell us about what's the most expensive piece you've ever sold?
Yeah, I guess
people love these numbers.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, there's been watches that were hundreds of thousands and jewelry pieces as well.
Wow.
North of 100,000, at least 200,000. So it's
in the sleepy borough of Staten Island.
in the sleepy borough of Staten Island, you'd be surprised. And we have a national outreach, a global outreach.
I was just going to say, kind of. But like if you look these guys up after the fact and you look at their social media, you're going to see some pretty familiar faces. So at what point did like Yankees, major celebrities come into play?
It's the $100 million question, right? I mean, we've connected with a vast variety of different celebrities, let's say, all through different ways. And it's kind of funny because there's no one avenue that got us all these
people always are like, oh, how do you get all these celebrities? It's not a simple answer, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, it's been years of building trust
doing
with
the right
certain
thing,
individuals
right?
who have been able to, and I could say 5 or 6 different names of people who have indirectly referred me to someone who maybe referred me to someone else, or who posted our Instagram and posted the watch they got from us or a piece of jewelry they got from us. And social media is just like, hey, who's that? Like, where did you get that watch? Where did you get that?
Wow.
Where did you get that custom piece? And it's like, you got to meet my guy Gerald from New York or Peter from New York. And that's all of a sudden we're getting a phone call when one of us is like, yo, I just got connected to XYZ directly. It's like, they want this. And, that's kind of what happened. And once you do right by, someone in that circle, like, you commented on the New York Yankees. Once we did right by them, it spirals very quickly. They're all friends with each other in those circles, and it exponentially
Probably
grows.
really tight circles.
Yeah,
actually,
it's a very, very
probably
tight
right.
circle.
So you would think a lot of these industries are big, but they're probably actually pretty small.
And the
Super
jewelry,
small.
the jewelry business has a negative connotation in terms of it's hard to find someone to trust in the jewelry world, right? So once people are comfortable and there's a trust built and there's a reputation, which thank God for our father, he built a great reputation for himself, and we're maintaining that reputation and building on it. But once you have that reputation in the jewelry business, it's very hard for you to go trust someone else because there's a lot of different things you can do in the jewelry world, unfortunately, that aren't monitored. And there's no way to know as an uneducated consumer what you're getting or what price you should pay and all that kind of stuff. So you need to have that reputation. And we built a reputation over these, 40 something years that no one has ever said anything bad about us. Everyone always speaks good about us. We always do the right thing. One of our core values, we have 4 of them. The most important one we think is reputation over profit. So our reputation is far more important than the profit we make on anything, whether it be one sale, whether it be 1,000 sales. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's something that we instilled in our staff, and everyone has every right to make any judgment call at any given time, whether ownership's there or not. If you want to return something, if something's broke, you want to give them a brand new one. It's just reputation over profit. If you feel that was necessary to do to maintain our reputation, I'm fine with it. Every single time I smile and say good job. And I think it's, I actually get it embroidered inside all my suits now, because it's just something, it's words to live by. And like Peter said, when that reputation is in good graces with some people, I always say you're 1 degree of separation from anyone in the world. And we could talk about how we got connected to, like we said later on, LeBron James, and it's literally was one phone call, and it was just one person to the next, and that was it. We were connected, and it's remarkable, and we're learning it as we go, and we just do right by who we can, and just we want it to be all natural. It's never been paid for. We don't offer free stuff. Some jewelers will offer some free watches or jewelry. Right. We want it to be organic, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, if you would have asked your dad, 30 years ago about social media and posting watches on the internet, would be giving you that world, that much broader exposure. I mean, but social media is a game changer, and a lot of people aren't growing with the times. I mean, even if we want to talk about COVID, I deal with a lot of restaurant tours, and I design a lot of restaurants, and I clearly saw in front of me who was evolving and adapting to the times of COVID and who wasn't. Sure. And the people that didn't,
who has the cool drinks now and the foam.
Even the attention they gave to their tent outside.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. If they, 100%. People, put the care in and really tried to make something pretty. And I know guys that just threw up, a $10 tent in a fine dining restaurant, and I'm like, what's going on here?
And the ones who did the more expensive tent, risked the money. Those are the places we all ate at every single night.
So when did you guys really step up like your social media game, right? Because clearly your dad was not doing social media.
No, absolutely not.
So I think this is start on you bring up COVID, right? I think COVID was a good time for everybody in their business to take a step back, and you were able to reflect on what am I doing in my business that's working? What am I not doing? What do I have to do? What do I have to change? So what we wound up doing is during COVID, prior, Gerald, he'll talk a little bit more about this, but Gerald was handling our social media account, which you guys know it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job. You can't be doing that, helping customers, running your inventory, figuring out what to do every day, making decisions. So Gerald, do you want to speak about how we started?
We brought on a young lady to help us out in store, and we, collectively as a team, we come up with ideas. How can we get organic growth, and what do people want to see? What do people want to hear? And social media is the best. It's the best. It's free marketing, first of all, and second, it's the easiest way when I have a client that might be, out in another state or on vacation. The first thing they do is, let me show you my jeweler, because if they're talking, let's say, watches again, because let's say the watch world connects everybody. The first thing they do is they show our Instagram, right? That's the first thing. There's no more business cards. People actually, when I'm out and I'm networking, they take my Instagram.
That's right.
Before they take my business card. My business cards are archaic.
And Instagram has mastered that now. Like the hashtag thing doesn't work anymore. Sure. Like the fake followers doesn't work anymore. Yep, like absolutely. Your bottom of the, like it's all like you're either, there's no fake it or make it anymore. Like you have to make it, like, and you have to build it over time. It's unforgiving.
Even more than like LinkedIn, and there's a lot of, very helpful tools out there, but with social media, between TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, having those pictures up there, we're also a very, visual friendly business. So we post nice watches, we post nice diamonds, we post nice engagement rings. That's what the people want to see. But it also shows the quality of work we have, and we post our staff now. We want to get more involved. Like this podcast is, a great idea for just your businesses as well, because you're out in front of people. And people share it right away. Click. All of a sudden, you might have 5,000 views this on episode 17, and 18 could be 5 million, just like that. There's no cap.
I've struggled with that so much about because I sell often commercial real estate or leasing commercial real estate. Usually doesn't look sexy. No. I mean, maybe down the road when the store is done, or maybe I could show it, but like before, it's not as sexy. Luckily, maybe if you have really cool buildings, or if you're like a luxury residential guy, like if you can't master real estate, like on social media, if you do luxury residential, you shouldn't do it at all, because it's attractive. Nice people want to see it. Yeah, that's right. Videos, house tours. I mean, look at MTV Cribs, how successful that was for years.
That was the first of its kind. Yeah, that's a good point.
But what I think is sexy too, because there's product, and then there's also education, where I think this podcast is great because you're educating. So people are learning from the two of you, or if you're on social media or you're on podcasts, you're on TikTok. the educational part of social media now is starting to take off as well. Just letting people know about what your product is, whether that's an actual product or it's a service that you offer. But I think it's a great tool for you to interact with your clients, and we do it all the time. For us, luckily, we, like Gerald said, we have a product that is appealing, but we also get questions about things that aren't so product related. Different things that people ask us about. What our service warranties are, or what are our values, stuff like that. People do reach out and ask us about certain things. So it's a great tool just to connect with your clients above all else.
Amazing.
I got to hear about LeBron James. How did this happen?
So it's funny because I was, we're just two guys from, two brothers from Staten Island in the Staten Island Mall. And we had multiple clients that we were building from, I can name drop Mayor. He's a sneaker guy. And then we worked with Alani Anthony, and they're more local. They're familiar faces to the New York community. So it was very easy. We got in contact with them. They love their watches and jewelry. But the LeBron James thing was kind of a hope and a prayer too. So the funny story is, I was connected to one of his best friends through one of our good clients who I, gained his trust. It probably took 2.5 years, 3 years before he referred me to this person, because he knew that circle.
Okay.
And he didn't want to put, jeopardize his name, obviously. So that's how that, doing the right thing all the time, and you never know what something can lead to.
Now, you knew that was his best friend?
No, I did not.
Okay.
So
he
he reached out to me. He said, "You're going to sell a watch to LeBron James." And I laughed. And then he said, "No, you're going to." He's like, "Watch this." And then that's kind of what happened. So what happened was I was connected to someone in LeBron James' immediate friend circle. And he has a very, very small circle. I think it's 8 people total. But when I reached out to him, he was looking for a specific item. We had it. I threw it out there and I said, if I know you're very close with, LeBron, and I know he likes his watches and jewelry, if there's ever anything he might want, just let me know. He's like, yeah, actually, let me find out. Next thing you know, he said, yeah, he might want XYZ. So I go to my brother. I kind of didn't tell, anyone I did tell kind of laughed at me. So I was kind of discouraged in the beginning. I won't even say family.
I think when
friends.
you tell someone that, like, hey, LeBron James might become a client of ours, it's like, yeah, you kidding me?
So a lot of friends and family shot it down. So I said to, Pete, I said, they want to meet this day. And it was like Friday to Monday. So we were flying out Monday morning after I just decided all this on Friday. And we flew out to Ohio with, there was a little bit of radio silence. We're supposed to meet at his office. We're sitting there for about a half hour. And I looked at my brother and I said, there's a good chance that we just don't get a call. And
just got punked.
Now we're in Ohio.
And he looked at me. He said, I know. I said, and in my head, I was like, all right, you know what? He won't be mad at me then. We cleared the air.
Or like his assistant's going to come down and be like, oh, thanks for bringing this over to Ohio for us. Like, you guys go home now.
You're not even like in Miami or like.
Right.
No, we're in the middle of Ohio.
So we're at his office and we go in there and he just stands up and he's just like, hey, he's like, the watch boys from Staten Island. He's like, at the same time, I said something along the lines. The best part was we were watching. It was preseason before football. We were all debating who was going to win. But Kansas City lost Tyreek Hill, and he's debating that the Broncos are going to be good. And we were just talking shooting it,
just regular
dude
stuff.
Yeah,
regular guy.
Wow.
Didn't talk basketball once at all.
I made a comment to him sir, I was like, thank you so much for taking an opportunity to buy from us, because I know you could go anywhere, right? You literally have that most connections, probably, bar none, than anyone in the country. And he said something that resonated with me. He was like, this person trusted you, and he said you're a good guy, so you're a good guy by me. And he's like, that's how we operate. He's like, we trust each other, and nobody in, nobody out. And it just showed you whatever I did, whatever worked. And credit to me and my brother, I guess, and the rest of the staff for just making Gerald Peters, like I said, nationwide. So that's the goal. I always said in I always said in my head, they're buying it from somebody, whether it be a big diamond tennis chain, a Rolex watch, we offer the same products. So I always used to say, why not us? Why not?
Yeah, of course.
Us?
Yeah.
If they're buying, and you watch on TV during the Super Bowl, you see all these celebrities and then they're all wearing products I have in my store. Like literally the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And I always say, why not us? So there's got to be a way. And that's what I fight for every day. So,
without getting into details, was it jewelry or watch?
It was both.
Both.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then how did the relationship with the Yankees start?
It was, again, a family. I call them family. But a good friend of mine had a connection in there with the players in terms of some of their private, personal concierge stuff, and they didn't want any jewelers because they had a very bad experience in the past with a jeweler overcharging, let's just say, and they said no, and then finally it was yes. And when we went, I remember me and my brother were down there. At first they just wanted me. I was like, I can't come with all this stuff, and then I have to size watches.
They only wanted one person coming in. We're like,
they
this
wanted one
isn't gonna
person
work.
in, and then me and my brother went. I remember my dad, when we got back to the car afterwards, he was watching on the phone, seeing all the sales getting rang up, and he was crying hysterical because he just didn't know how this all happened.
Wow.
And that was probably the
That's
best
cool.
feeling in my life also.
And
know.
and the people there, it was one of the clubhouse people there. Like he was like, listen, we bring in vendors all the time. Like we have different vendors, from suit vendors to sneaker vendors. This was, and he told us, like, this is me and Gerald, two Staten Island guys that, just hustling, trying to, increase the business. And he's like, this was the best vendor I've ever seen come in. You guys crushed it. Like out of all the vendors we had in 25 years I've been here, you guys did the best. And
Yeah,
we're like,
man,
are
it
you
was so
kidding
cool,
me?
man.
It's
They were
very
like-
cool. So what's the format? Like, so what? I don't know anything about it. So you
Sure.
just brought a bunch of watches.
Yeah, we just brought a bunch of watches and jewelry and just said, hey guys, what do you want? It's kind of more like that. I mean, they're all there, so they all come in, they're all making fun of each other, like, oh, if you hit 20 home runs, I'll buy you that one. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, and it was really fun. It was really relaxed. And it happens with all the
Yeah, it was
more high end celebrities. They're normal people.
Yeah.
And they want to
Right,
be treated like a
100%.
normal
Yeah.
person.
especially athletes
we
too.
don't-
They're young. Some of them don't even, they don't even know how to sign a check themselves. Like it was just like we're like dealing with these people, and you have the stigma in your head, like these are such professional people, but they're at the end of the day, they're people.
It's,
They're
and some of them are
people.
so young.
Yeah, they're young.
21,
Yeah.
28
So you're
years
getting
old.
texts from like random people now, or like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
wow, that's
We'll get a text a random day that we could have just got a text now from an athlete, baseball player, whoever it might be, saying, "Hey, I'm looking for this for my wife. What do you got?" And then we'll send them
And then
pictures back and
Christmas
forth.
time is-
We ship it to wherever they are, and we say, "Listen, if you don't love it, whatever it is, just let us know. You send it back, whatever it is." And 99 times out of 100, they love it because we're showing them our best product, obviously, and all of our product is good, and we want to make sure that we maintain that relationship with them.
Yeah, of
it's
course.
funny because once they don't ask questions, once they trust you, that's it. The trust is there, and it's your job not to mess that up. And I think that's something very important. Like
Right.
you don't squeeze,
Right.
we don't, can't squeeze out an extra dollar. Like you have to do the right thing, and you'll be in the good graces forever. And we've been invited back to the Yankees multiple times, more than a handful. So it's an
They're
opportunity.
actually requesting us. The players are like, "Hey, when are you bringing back those guys from Staten Island again?" And it's like the best feeling you could have,
It's so
especially
cool.
as my father
So cool.
who started this business from basically nothing, and now he's second generation. It's like, my kids are doing these things I never even dreamed of.
No,
Like I
it's
didn't even
gotta
have
be
this
the
in my
coolest
sight.
thing in the world.
So
Yeah.
where's your dad during the New York Yankees? He's in the car.
First time
First time he
I
was
got
in
it.
the car.
He's in the
With
car,
security
and
guard.
he was
just
in
watching
the
on
car,
the
and you can
computer.
see the name and the charge going through the thing.
Well,
And our charge after charge.
our staff was following on, so they actually said when we went there, they were like, "Listen, you do your thing, and then like come outside for batting practice. You could come on the field and watch batting practice." We never made batting practice.
Yeah.
We were working through right before the game started, and like it was like 4 hours. We were sweating afterwards. It was
And
an
then
awesome experience.
And then there was the phone call the next day. Hey, who was on the trainer's table? Didn't get to see. Who wants to see?
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
down. And they came down to the store. A few guys.
Wow.
We met a few guys at their private residences, hotel rooms. So it's just to maybe piggyback off that, what the future holds for us. We're always, like we said, we're trying to grow.
I was going to say, this is 40 plus years.
Yeah,
you
it's
guys are
40 plus
super
years.
young. Where does this go now?
So the experience, what differentiates us from everybody else, and I'll always say this, and I truthfully believe it, is not just me and Peter, but the extension of our family is our staff. And when you go into my store, we have long tenured staff members. There's hardly any turnover. We have our first employee that was 42 years with us, all the way down to people who are 29 years, 25 years, 15 years, 15 years.
I think
10
our
years.
average employee tenure is, I think, around 20 something years, 21,
That's
22
amazing.
years,
So
which is unheard of in any
especially in a
industry.
small business. And I think that's what separates us, because when you walk in, everyone knows his name. Everyone knows everyone's name, whether they're an average or below average customer, or maybe they come in once in a while, all the way up to our top customers. I don't need to physically always be there to help anyone, because I know they're in good hands with whoever is assisting them. And how do we grow on that is the overall client experience of in-store. And like we've said, if you go to any luxury retailer of any kind, even from real estate to your high-end Louis Vuittons, Gucci's,
Chanel.
Chanel. When you go into those stores, it's not just about buying the product anymore. It's about what kind of experience
Client
can
experience.
you give me. And if you're not in that business of giving an experience with the purchase, you're going to buy it online. So you're going to go to Amazon, this, that, right?
Yeah.
You don't even go to the supermarket anymore. You can do everything on Amazon
Yeah.
almost, right? You go for maybe some fresh meat and that's it. So
Yeah.
the truth is with luxury jewelry and watches, which is where we're at, we need to give an above and beyond experience where people don't just come to purchase, but they come to hang out. You know, I want the doors open. I want to be inviting. So we're looking to expand, make a bigger store eventually. You know, once we can finalize some things, we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll come back on another podcast and
5
talk
years
about
in the
it.
making.
Yeah.
5 years in the making.
Yeah, we've been working with Rob for 5 years.
5
And
years.
we're not at the home stretch yet, but we're close.
We're close.
So
Yeah.
but
Kudos
that's-
to you guys
yeah,
because
that's the
I have
exciting news.
I have partners in both of my businesses, and I can never be in business with my family, let alone my brother and my father. I understand the frustrations that come on a daily basis. You guys don't have to work together all day long, but then have Christmas dinner together and Thanksgiving dinner together. And I know, you know, there's probably a bunch of ugly days that happened, and to be able to do that and then leave that business, separate it. Okay, now I'm going into family mode. You know, I got to go see my nieces or my nephews or my brother.
Sure.
It's super hard when you're at that Thanksgiving table to not talk work. And I'm sure you guys do
Yeah, we
a
do
great
that.
job trying not to, but I'm sure there's some overlap.
Oh, there's
you know?
always
Yeah,
there's always overlap. You don't have a chance, or hey, Gerald, you were off today. We're out to dinner, or like, you know. But for us, it's not really work. It's just part of who we are. You know, like
Right.
we try to separate
That's a
it,
good
but
point.
that's who we are. You know, that's what we're passionate about.
Right.
So for us to say like we're never going to talk about work outside of work, you'd almost be like, you know, throwing a muzzle on us.
Yeah.
Like it'd be like you want to talk about it, right? You want to keep building.
I'm such a firm believer of that, man. This
Yeah.
is like this is not a job; it's a lifestyle. Whether
Yeah.
it's real estate, whether it's just being a business owner. Period. It's a lifestyle. And that's just I think you hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
It's got to be a lot of respect and a lot of maturity because, again, there have been times, and I'll speak for myself, where there's super heated debates on where the direction of the business should go or what it should do. And lines can be crossed
Yeah.
that can't
Sure.
be repaired. And over the course of 45 years, I mean, you guys maybe 10 years together, right?
Yeah. At
You know,
least
I'm
15
sure
years,
I'm
yeah.
sure that line has been pushed and those limits have been pushed.
But I will tell you one thing that changed a lot for us, and this goes back a few years, was we started having annual meetings with, you know, a 10-year plan, 5-year plan, 3-year plan, a 1-year plan, and our goals to get to that 1-year plan. So we're all on the same page because if your vision is, I'm going to open 50 stores, and my vision is, no, this is going to be the best store ever, but we're going to make just one, we're going to be on different pages. So
Yeah,
by
that's cool.
being able to translate our goals and agreeing on them and then translating that to the staff on the future and what's going on. And I also think another thing was that we had to sit down and we discussed, you know, how do we debate? When you don't agree with something, how do we handle it, right? And it's if me, my brother, my father's intentions are all the same, right? What's best for the business?
Yeah.
And no one's really
When everyone's rowing in the same direction, it's
right.
easy.
No, and
to-
Right.
no one's necessarily wrong,
Yeah.
right? We might just have different ideas. Fortunately for me and Pete, I will say that most of the time, 99% of the time, we might get there a different way, but our end goal is the same, but the idea is the same. It's just,
Mhm.
hey,
The
what do you think
vision's
is better?
The vision's usually the same. It's more of the
So
how do you get
how do
there?
you get there?
Yeah,
Right.
right. So
The
like
the stars
some
usually align that way pretty easily. But like I said, if his intentions are to grow the business and so are mine, then nobody should be mad at anyone else. You know, we don't argue. Let's just talk it out and find out what's best. And it's probably somewhere in the middle.
Right. So one thing we always find, there's common trends, if you will, and you guys are in a business that you're crossing paths every day. What are your personal habits like? Which like do you guys live totally different lifestyles? You wake up and do a certain thing. Like we talk about this all the time about like
Yeah,
people.
so some
you
people-
guys are talking about goals, coaching,
grew-
almost like those are
we,
important things.
Some
We
people
grew up-
journal, some people read, some people get up at 6 a.m. to work out, some
Yeah.
people work out at
Yeah.
night. So like,
Well,
what
he
are
goes a
you?
little further, so he has to get up earlier than me. So that's the downfall.
So I'm generally a morning person. Like my brain operates the best in the morning. I think my brother's is best at closer to the night because like by the time Gerald texts me at night, he has 100 ideas. I kind of have to curb them to the morning. But
yeah, so
Um,
that's fair like that.
the thing that my father always said he liked about the jewelry business is like a lot of people have a routine that, you know, from 8 to 9 I'm doing this, from 9 to 10 I do this, from 11 to 12 I check emails and whatever it is. In the jewelry business where you have clients coming in, you know, unannounced basically because, you know, let's face it, not everyone calls you when they come in or there's different issues. There's never an exact science to an exact day.
All right.
So everything changes. So you try to have structure in your day, but that could change instantly.
Yeah,
you have
I drove all the way to Boston for training and got a text. Is it possible I can get 6-carat studs by tonight delivered to the city? I got back in the car. Oh, not Boston. It was
Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
We were in
Pennsylvania. It was
Philadelphia.
about an hour and 45 minutes. I got back in the car. The training just started. I got up, walked out, drove all the way back to Staten Island, drove to Manhattan, and
So,
that's the sale. And that was not my day. I didn't go into that day thinking that was going to happen. So it's like he said, it's never the same. Every day is different.
And it's holiday based, weekend based.
And
You guys are totally different.
And everyone's got a birthday and an anniversary and a different day
yeah.
of the week. So it's always something. Growing up, we both played the same sports. We both played football and baseball in high school. We both played basketball on the side. Growing up like that, we competed against each other in everything. So I think a lot of things was very similar. And I think that built a strong bond between us, as kids. And I think it's paying dividends now, because now I know I can rely on him. And I know when, I'm mature enough now to know what he's better at me than.
Right.
I won't tell him.
Which is an important thing.
But I won't I might delegate.
He knows. Don't worry.
He knows. And he knows what I'm better at. And I'll say, hey, listen, I'll take the lead on this one, but I need you to do this. And then we both get the job done to a better of our ability. We're not stubborn in that aspect.
Right. Absolutely.
Sure. I think that helps.
Very cool, guys. This was great.
No, this was tremendous, man. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
coming in.
coming.
Thanks for
Very
having us.
insightful.
Keep up the great
awesome.
work and keep growing the business. I'm sure your dad's super
For
proud.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
We got to get him
Thank
on
you,
next
guys.
time.
Thanks, Rob.